All right, so here I am. Um, sorry about all that. Here I am. Where should I be looking on this? Is this where I'm supposed to look? Is this where I'm supposed to look? Is this where I'm supposed to look? Bear with me, still figuring it out. If you're like, man, this is uncomfortable. This guy's gaze is going all over. I'm sorry. But look, so I passed the ball off to Derek, and he passed it back to me, and we're still in our first episode. I gotta tell you, I'm filming this whilst I'm cooking. Let's see if we can get it in there. Oh yeah, there we go. Cooking. I'm making chicken in a vegetable puree. Puree of a yes. I gotta tell you, yesterday I was like, is that? Oh, you know what? You don't want to know because I can't think of. It's not gonna be funny. Not because it's weird or anything. It'll be boring. It won't be funny. Okay, so anyhow, I'm cooking. Um, and let me stir this up a little bit here. So Derek was asking me what's my experience with comics. So everybody has their story, right? Let's do mine. And then I'm gonna pass the ball back to you, Derek, and I'm gonna ask you to do yours. Cause you know what? I don't even know if I've ever if I know that about you. If I know your comics story thing. Mine is, look, I mean, I don't know if my very first memory of comics, of superhero comics especially, is being at a friend's house, um, and which, by the way, is the same house that I watched Superman at, the movie Superman, which was awesome. Um, and he had a comic book, and I remember it had Superman and Batman in it, and I'm thinking that it was probably a World's Finest, but it was basically a Superman Batman team up, and I remember looking at that. I remember thinking, I wish I could read what they're saying. There's no adult around at the time. It was just me and my friend in his room, and I mean we were supervised, but there's no adult in the room, and I was like, oh man, I wish I knew what that. And that's my earliest memory. After that, it's a slew of sort of like Casper the Friendly Ghost and Richie Rich and even some maybe Justice League that of America that my parents would buy when we go on road trips. I remember there was always comics and activity books around for those long road trips. Me and my older brother, we would have something to do in the car. I remember reading those at gas stations or stop offs or whatever rest stops, and I remember reading them in the car and getting sick, getting car sick. Lots of good memories. One in particular I remembered. Oh, an Underdog. I loved Underdog. I loved Underdog. And if you just Google it, it's if you don't know, it was cool back in the '70s, back in the late '70s, maybe early '80s, probably late '70s. Anyhow, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Richie Rich, Underdog were my faves. Then should we do this in parts? Because that's like part one. Part one is basically just comics being around in my life. And I remember, oh, but the end of part one is I really remember the Crisis on, not Crisis on Infinite Earths, but like I've got it on my bookshelf now in trade paperback form. The one where Justice League and JSA team up across Earth 1 and Earth 2. And that blew me away, partially because I didn't get the whole thing as like one issue or maybe two issues of the whole, out of the whole, I think it was like a four issue thing, and I got like one or two. Um, and it was just because I didn't have the whole thing, that only piqued my interest even more. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? Because it was like superheroes, which I was used to, but now they were going to other worlds, and there was like another world. Now it's old hat, but at the time it blew my mind. That is pretty much the end of part one of my comics journey. I think I'm going to eat my food, my lunch, and I'll come back here for part two. And maybe I'll figure out where I'm supposed to be looking on this thing. Okay. See y'all later. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna eat and I'm gonna read some Sandman by Neil Gaiman because I'm getting all hyped for the new Sandman universe, which I've read a couple issues of, which is awesome. We'll talk about that later. But I'm going back and I'm not reading the entire original Sandman run, although I definitely will at some point again reread it. Um, I haven't actually read the entire run straight through ever, but I've read most. I've read about 70, 80% of it. I'm going back and I'm rereading the last three story arcs, the last three trades, because they were some of the best. That was some of the best work, I think. And I'm excited about the new Sandman universe. And I've already read some of it. I've got lots to say about it, good and bad. And so, but I'm going back and I'm just having so much fun with 90s Vertigo in general. But the old Sandman and Lucifer series in particular. I'll talk about that. But first, I'm going to eat my lunch. Then we're going to do part two of, hey man, how did you get interested in comics? Because part two is actually a little more interesting than part one. Part one is basically just comics floating around in my life, which I mean, I guess we all kind of had. All right, I'm going to chomp down on this lunch, which is probably going to be badass. I'm going to read Sandman while I'm doing that. Then I'll see you here again.